What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And to tease our first question a little bit, we did a question on like Cartoon Network stuff, specifically Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, and Dexter. In my research, I found this article about how they're connected. It's actually a really interesting theory. So the theory is that Professor Utonium, the guy that made Powerpuff Girls.
Is that it? Utonium? Is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name.
It is.
It's a pretty cool name.
I was like trying to remember, but the only thing in my head is Professor Gadget, which is not anything.
That's not a thing.
It's like a mix of two things. But yeah, so the theory was that before Powerpuff Girls, there was like this short animated thing that they did, which was like the concept of Powerpuff Girls. And it showed a younger Professor Utonium, and he had a really big resemblance to Dexter. So the theory is that Dexter makes the Powerpuff Girls. That's a connection between those two.
Okay.
And then Samurai Jack comes in because he is known to travel through time, and he's actually trying to get back to like the past to kill Aku and everything like that. But he has trouble doing that. But the theory says that he, instead of getting back to his original time, he travels back to the Powerpuff Girls time. He kills Dexter and takes Dexter's place as Professor Utonium because they look similar to the way Professor Utonium looks in the new show. So when he kills Dexter, he starts a new timeline, and that's the Powerpuff Girls show.
Huh. You know, I kind of don't know if I buy the timeline where Professor Utonium is a fucking murderer. Like, for what, no, just to make a couple, like, little daughters for himself. Like, he's always seemed kind of a nice guy.
Well, it's to have a family and to, like, get just, because they like, fight bad guys and stuff, so it's still getting justice.
I guess? I mean, this is pretty, like, the ends justify the means right here.
It's definitely a stretch.
Yeah. It works surprisingly well, though.
I like that in the article they point out that they weren't originally Powerpuff Girls, they were originally the Whoop-Ass Girls.
Can of whoop-ass.
It wasn't Chemical X originally, it was a can of Whoop-Ass stew.
I mean, that's going to be what you'll find later when I do my answer. Upsettingly accurate how much whoop-ass they got.
But if you look at the pictures of like Professor Utonium and Samurai Jack, they do look very similar.
It is true.
Oh yeah, but I mean, there's just like only so many ways you can draw a cartoon character.
There's a lot of ways you can draw a cartoon character. Do you know how many cartoons there are?
All right, I take that one back specifically. But you can definitely very easily just copy somebody else's general shape for a cartoon character if you're lazy. And I'm not sure which one came first, so one of those is lazy.
I think Powerpuff Girls came first.
So Samurai Jack is a lazy cartoon. That's a popular opinion, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Totally.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be popular on the internet.
I wonder what's like the demographic slice of people who have watched Samurai Jack and people who don't like Samurai Jack, because like there's people who don't like Samurai Jack, but usually because they haven't seen it. I feel like everyone I've talked to who knows like what Samurai Jack is and has seen it likes it.
Samurai Jack is awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's also just that if you're gonna, it's very obvious what kind of show Samurai Jack is, and if you go to sit down and watch it, all those shows are the same, so you know what you're getting into.
That is true. It is kind of a self-selecting audience. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you can kind of tell what kind of show it is from the name.
Yeah, if you're in for a samurai cutting down aliens or demons or whatever they happen to be that week, then Samurai Jack is your show. And if it's not your type of show, it's very easy to tell that's what Samurai Jack is, so you won't watch it. But Samurai Jack may be good at cutting down aliens and robots and whatever else he happens to be doing in that time period. But how good is he at cutting down scientists and small girls? So our first question of the day is, which cartoon character would win in a fight?
We already kind of teased who the fighters are.
Yeah, so we have Samurai Jack, heralded by Chris, the Powerpuff Girls, heralded by me, and Dexter. Does Dexter have a first name or a last name? Is it just Dexter?
Okay, Dexter is his first name.
Does he have a last name?
I do not know what his last name is. I have never seen a last name.
Well, Dexter of Dexter's Laboratory.
So Ben, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about Dexter and how he's going to be good at this fight.
Sure. So Dexter is a small boy who is a genius, who also, for some reason, has a Russian accent, despite no one else in his family.
Yeah, his family doesn't. I just noticed. I never realized that.
But he does speak with a very distinct Russian accent, which is, that's a whole other question. But, so, he's an inventor. He invents a lot of things. Conveniently, a lot of his things are actually good for combat. So, sort of the big one, we're going to go ahead and sort of jump ahead to the robots. He's made actually a lot of robots. A lot of them are not useful, but some of them are. So we're going to mostly focus on those. I guess for some of the non-useful robots, just because they're fun, there's the counting robot, which just counts things really well, which he used to win one of those, like, count how many jelly beans are in a thing contests. And then also the alligator lawnmower, which is a riding lawnmower that's shaped like an alligator.
Is it an alligator, or is it just shaped like an alligator?
Nope, just shaped like one. I think it has some artificial intelligence as well, because that's what you want in a lawnmower. I don't know. But he made those.
Do you want your lawnmower to be hungry for grass?
You really don't.
So not the brightest genius.
But regardless, the more useful ones, there is, first off, the Robodexo 2000, which is a, like, larger than house-size robot that looks kind of like Dexter. It has, like, his glasses and everything, and, like, the purple gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember what it looks like, but it's an unhelpful description to the listeners that I read that.
Right.
I can't.
I mean, yeah, it's a giant robot with purple gloves. Dexter is a little boy in, like, a lab coat with purple gloves and frizzy red hair and glasses. That's pretty much Dexter. So this is basically that, but without the hair, because it's a robot. And also house-sized. It has hands that launch rockets, and its head pops up like a Pez dispenser and fires missiles that are actually called Pez missiles, canonically.
Wow.
Didn't get sued?
I wonder if you have to get, like, rights for that, or if it was just the fucking Wild West of animating.
I mean, why not both? Also, that one actually has a basic AI in it and can operate with or without a pilot. It's better with a pilot, but it can do stuff without one. It's funny you say the Wild West of animating, because the next robot we're going to talk about is Dexter's Cowboy Robot, which is a robot that looks like a cowboy and has legs that are just missile launchers.
How big is it?
He's big on missiles for some reason. Not huge. So this one, I believe he has to sit in, and the cockpit is roughly him-sized, and that's like the torso of the robot. And he's probably about, I would guess, 3 feet tall, maybe?
Yeah, like 2'4".
So this robot's
It's
probably
like one
about
of those
5 feet
robot
tall.
exoskeleton type of things.
Exactly, but it has a cowboy hat on top.
That's important.
Very important. And yeah, the legs are missile launchers, so that's cool. And then the other really useful one is the Mom Droid 1000, which is a robot that looks like his mom, but also flies and fires lasers from her hands. So that's useful.
All right.
Other weapony kind of things he did, there's the satellite laser cannon, which is, I mean, it's kind of just what it says on the tin there. Like, it's a laser cannon on a satellite. Hit a button and it shoots a laser. So, you got that one.
He's pretty straightforward with his names.
He is, which I really appreciate, honestly. It makes this a lot simpler. And then there's also just, he's made, like, tanks. One that, like, fires ice, and then a bunch that are just tanks. I don't know. So these on their own are useful, but not actually that useful against some of the things we get up against. So we have to get to the more esoteric things. So most importantly, we're going to talk about time control. So he has just a time machine.
Okay.
But it is in his lab, so he won't really have access to that. So we have to improvise a bit. So we're going to talk about the backwards belt. The backwards belt is a belt with a switch on it. When you flip the switch, lets you basically walk backwards through time. So, like, there was a time where he fell off a platform, and he turned on the belt, and he, like, went back up onto the platform. He ate a sandwich from the belt, and then he, like, burped the sandwich back out full. I don't know. It was kind of weird. But it, like, walks him backwards through time. It
It's
does
like a Prince of Persia style.
pretty
time,
much, yeah. It does take a couple of seconds for it to activate. So in a combat situation, it's not necessarily that useful because if you're in like, you know, a situation where you're about to die, you may not have the time for it to activate. But there's also the time expansion helmet. The time expansion helmet is a helmet that makes each second of actual time last a minute for the wearer. So basically he moves 60 times faster than normal. That at least gives him some reaction time there. And then there's one thing that is kind of broken, which is the neuroatomic protocore, which is a powerful energy source that can give near infinite energy to any device.
Huzzah!
And apparently, this is a direct quote from There Is a Dexter's Live wiki, direct quote from it, when properly harnessed with good intentions and set to a positive energy emission, it can grant high intelligence and the ability to teletronically materialize objects out of thin air to the one who harnesses its power. So theoretically, he can now move incredibly fast, is even smarter, and also can just materialize objects?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's not bad. And then also, one of the other things in his lab is the clone-o-matic, which can make clones of himself. They're just like him again. They're not like, you know, dumb clones. They're just another Dexter.
So of like equal intelligence.
Right. They're in his lab, but theoretically, if he has the neuroatomic protocore, he could, you know, materialize it, I guess, and then start making clones. I don't know. It gets
Was there any negative side to that? Because usually when a cartoon has that premise, there's a negative side to it.
So there is. If used with evil intentions and set to a negative energy emission, it twists the user's mind, granting them near infinite intellect while draining away both the intelligence of all others who are hit by its energy waves and the life of the surrounding environment. But it is shown apparently that because he made it, he is immune to the negative energy ray, which is kind of OP, but I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's basically what he's got going for him.
So he's got more than I expected.
He has more than I expected too. It's the neuroatomic protocore kind of changes things some. So yeah, so Chris, what do you have?
Okay, yeah, so I covered Samurai Jack. So to start with, it doesn't really help him in a fight, but he doesn't age, so he's like biologically immortal. But then to get to, I don't know why I mentioned that, but just thought I would. To get to the actual useful stuff, he is very good at stealth, so he can use like his surroundings and like color to blend into his surroundings. He has incredible endurance, so he can fight continuously for days at a time. He has both speed and agility. So he also has a wiki, and this is a quote from the wiki. Jack is shown to be extremely swift. With his natural reflexes and sheer footwork, he is able to avoid gunfire, carve through entire armies within seconds, and even defeat a team composed entirely of highly skilled bounty hunters from all directions in the time it takes for a drop of water to hit the ground. So, super fast.
Okay.
So, and he's been shown to dodge bullets on multiple occasions, like without any effort at all. And he can also deflect bullets from a Gatling gun with no effort. He's been shown to do that.
Okay.
And he can also take a beating from like inhumanly strong opponents, and it just like doesn't faze him at all. It's kind of ambiguous as to like how strong they are, but they're stronger than humans.
Reasonable.
And then he's also super smart, and like probably not as smart as Dexter, but he's like strategic. He plans ahead of time, and he's also been shown to think on his feet in the middle of a fight if like his plan doesn't go the way he thinks it will. And then in addition to all of that, there is one episode called Jump Good where he meets
Where he jumps real good.
Real good,
basically. Basically, he meets a bunch of monkey men, and he teaches them how to defend themselves. And in return, they teach him how to quote unquote jump good, where they basically strap a bunch of rocks to him and make him train. There's like a really long training montage. And then at the end of it, he's able to jump over skyscrapers with no effort at all. So he can jump over skyscrapers.
That's almost as good as flying.
Yeah, it's not quite as good as flying, but it's still good. It still makes him like mobility a lot better. And I just wanted to list a few of the feats that he's accomplished. He regularly defeats. Well, Ben said that Dexter like he builds robots and stuff. But Samurai Jack regularly defeats robots. That's like his sort of his thing.
That is true.
He like destroys complete armies of robots at a time. For some reason, they come mostly in like the form of bugs. I don't know why. Like beetles and praying mantises and mosquitoes.
Bugs are cool. I don't know.
They are cool. But for the most part, they're treated as like fodder for him on the show. So they're just like super easy. And then he can fight multiple experienced fighters at the same time. He fought like seven daughters of Aku at the same time, which are 7 highly trained assassins. And then just to list a few other things he's killed dust zombies, aliens, a lava monster, gargoyles, a demonic spirit, and several other highly trained assassins. He is trained in multiple styles of martial arts, so Shaolin praying mantis, tiger, and eagle styles. He's trained in Greek wrestling and African stick fighting, and he's trained in ninjutsu. And then for his weapons, so his main weapon is his sword, which is indestructible, and it was forged by the Norse god Odin, the Egyptian god Ra, and the Hindu god Rama. And I guess the indestructible part's the important part.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in addition to the sword, he is also a master archer. He was trained by Robin Hood in archery.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess he goes through time.
Yeah, he's traveled through time. And then he's been shown to be proficient in like a whole bunch of other weapons too. And then he's actually embraced modern weapons too. So like all of season 5 took place 50 years after season 4. And he was shown to be like a master of modern firearms. And he rides a motorcycle.
Motorcycle is cool.
Yeah. So he's got the sword, he's got all the traditional weapons, and he's got modern weapons. And then the agelessness thing actually does give him an advantage because he was 25 years old in seasons 1 through 4, and then in season 5, 50 years passed. So that's 75 years of experience, and he hasn't aged at all. So he's still at peak physical condition, but he has 75 years of wisdom and experience.
All right.
And overall, he's just badass. Samurai Jack, awesome samurai.
That is a pretty impressive list of powers you got there.
Yeah. But I assume you have a bigger list with Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, especially because there was one episode called Nothing Special, where the plot of the episode was that Buttercup was upset that she didn't have a defining power that was all unique to her compared to her sisters. So they spent the whole episode using a whole bunch of different powers that it turned out they all had. Until concluding the power that she is able to use just herself is she can curl her tongue.
Oh, I remember that one.
I remember that episode too.
Yeah.
That was a good episode. Oh yeah, we should have mentioned that we watched all of these shows as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. So I went and tried to just, compile a list of all the superpowers, and then I gave up and just printed out all the superpowers from their wiki.
Oh God.
They were already compiled for you.
They're already compiled for me, and I went to go pick out like some of the best ones, but I thought it would just be more fun just to read them off. So, the Powerpuff Girls, they all have the following powers. They have superhuman strength, superhuman speed, superhuman durability, superhuman stamina, flight, heat vision, ability to breathe and survive in space, energy projection, super sense of smelling, sight, and hearing, night vision, tornado generation, fire generation, x-ray vision, limited invulnerability, immunity to extreme cold and heat, sound manipulation and control, supersonic screams, supersonic waves, supersonic bursts, sonic booms, teleportation over short distances, super strength punches, inferno, copycat. They're able to multiply themselves. They're able to transform into a puddle of water, atomic snot rocket, itsy bitsy, so they can shrink to a microscopic size. Electric boogaloo force field, which is an intensive breakdancing, which generates highly output force field. 3-card Puffy, which is a card trick. Optometron, which I don't know what that is. The Penny Pincher, I don't know what that is. A Call of the Wild, where they can imitate a roar from a beast. They have the Matrix, where they can imitate the character from the movie and dodge bullets. Tongue curling, which is Buttercups. They can enter each other's dreams. They have pink magic, blue magic, green magic, and energy fists. They have combination attacks, including Furious Fiery Feline, Starburst Ray, morphing into a ball, Razzle Dazzle, Cherry Bomb, 2 Tornado, Wing Plan R, Fastball, Special Fireball, Cosmic Cannonball, Acrobatic Attack, B-Bomb, Attack Pattern Alpha Omega Atari, Atomic Twister, Super Spin, Reflect Pattern Omega, Mega Blast Stream. And then they have powers unique to each of them individually. So Blossom has ice breath, microscopic vision, lightning bolts, pink laser beam, advanced intellect, intuitive aptitude, exceptional leadership skills, enhanced intuition, danger sense, and photographic memory. Bubbles has vaporiza, whatever that is, energy orbs, spheres, electric blast, zoopathy, animal whispering, omnilingualism, laser eye beams, thunderclaps, sound manipulation control, hypersonic sound blast, hypersound manipulation control, hypersonic waves, ultrasonic scream, ultrasonic burst, supersonic shields, hypersound combustions, and Buttercup has ball blast, black hurricane, superior fighting skills, better strength, bright green color laser beams, energy orbs, fireball, and she can curl her tongue again.
I did not process that.
They're good, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question is that, the big thing is the generic superhuman strength and speed. So the question is, how strong are they? The comparison point used on this wiki is a time where Buttercup, in a display of strength, lifted up a mountain with little to no effort.
Decent.
Another feat of strength for striking things is a bunch of flaming meteors were about to destroy the planet, and they just flew up and punched through them. Also, again, with little to no effort. Then they have their flying speed. The Powerpuff Girls have on numerous occasions displayed faster than light flight speed. They're able to fly from the Earth to the asteroid belt in a matter of seconds, which isn't a problem for them because they can survive in space, and they can breathe in space. And also, they can fly so fast that they travel through time like Superman.
Because that makes sense. That made sense in Superman.
Yeah, it was very good. It actually kind of makes sense if you go into like the really deep physics about time distortions and relativity. You can't go back in time much, I guess, but...
The problem with the Superman thing is that the way they show it, it looks like what they're trying to say is that he flies around the world so fast he makes it spin the opposite direction and thereby make it go back in time.
Yeah.
That's not what happens. It was a bad way to try to show that.
All right. Yeah, so they're also, this running speed. They managed to run so fast that they destroy entire buildings by simply running into them. Blossom able to run so fast she cracked the Earth's crust and unleashed magma, which is also the problem because they can survive in lava as if it's water. So there's a couple times where they're just like hanging out in lava with no problem. They even survived a missile explosion that occurred right next to them in one of the episodes.
That was my trump card, missiles.
Yeah. And they have a couple, and they talk about the energy projections and extreme temperature and invulnerabilities and their super senses. But yeah, so
they're strong.
I'm feeling pretty good.
I kind of expected that they'd be the strongest, like in terms of pure strength. I just wanted you to go first before I brought up marks against Powerpuff Girls that I found. But I found 4 marks against them. The first one being that they're kind of immature and like emotional, so they like argue with each other a lot over really dumb things.
It is in their weaknesses arguing with each other.
Yeah. So you can just like pit them against each other, and then they'll get distracted and start arguing with each other, and that's when you get them.
Except for like their like basically like invulnerability that they have.
Yeah. Well, go on with your weaknesses.
There's you said more.
Okay, weakness number 2, they haven't killed anything, and I think it'll emotionally affect them.
You don't have to kill someone to win a fight, to win a superhero fight. You almost typically don't kill somebody to win a superhero fight.
Okay, fine, I guess you don't have to kill them. Yeah. Point number 3 was... Well, this was specifically for Samurai Jack versus them, but Samurai Jack regularly fights more formidable foes than Powerpuff Girls. So Powerpuff Girls' main antagonist is Mojo Jojo, which is just like a smarter than average monkey.
Okay, that undersells Mojo Jojo slightly, but continue.
And then Samurai Jack's main antagonist is Aku, which the wiki describes as an evil shape-shifting demon born from the black mass of darkness.
All right, one counterpoint here.
That's a fair point. Okay.
One, I don't know how often the Powerpuff Girls have to actually try very hard to beat Mojo Jojo, besides like find him.
That's
punch
also
him.
a fair point.
And so if you're comparing the villains, like, it's taken Samurai Jack, it took him 75 years to defeat Aku. Like, the Powerpuff Girls defeat him like each Tuesday in like an hour in the afternoon, like after school.
Well, he was about to, like, the whole premise of Samurai Jack is that he was about to kill Aku, like in his first encounter with him, but then Aku sent him into the future to where he was like super.
See, the first encounter with Mojo Jojo, the Powerpuff Girls were about to defeat him, and then they did, and they punched him.
Okay, well, I think point number 4 is probably my strongest point, and it is from an episode in season 4, episode 9, where Mojo Jojo defeats them using flypaper to trap them. He puts flypaper on the ground, they step on it, they get stuck.
What kind of fucking flypaper is this?
He's about to kill them, he's about to win, and the squirrel saves them.
Wait, how does the squirrel save them?
Bubbles had given the squirrel chemical X before, like earlier in the episode. So the squirrel saved them. They would have lost if the squirrel didn't come. So they may be super strong, but they're not super smart or tactical. They probably could have easily just taken off their shoes because they stepped in the flypaper, but they didn't take off their shoes.
Problem is they've now learned about the flypaper, and it's on their list of it's on the very short list of their weaknesses, which includes very bad weaknesses like arguing with each other and individuality. Like they're insecure about their individuality. Oh, and their femininity. Femininity.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of the flypaper, I think it just demonstrates that they're not always the smartest or most tactical, and even though they are super powerful, they might not use it all the time. I think they're kind of like Lucky Charm, where they're like incredibly powerful, but it's a toss-up whether they use it or not.
This is true. Can I give my thoughts on the overall fight?
Yeah, where's Dexter at?
Oh yeah, we kind of just left Dexter out of this.
So here's the problem I have. I think Dexter cannot win because he's a little boy. The problem I really have, everyone is super fast, which means that no one is super fast. Which means that in the end...
I'm super faster.
You are probably also, super faster. That is true.
So what was it? You were 60 times faster than normal?
Yeah.
Was that?
And there was no number to me, but I can like dodge bullets and stuff.
Right.
I break the speed of light,
yeah.
which I think is
that's
a
definitely
different
the
number.
fastest.
I would guess that Samurai Jack and Dexter are on a similar scale of time dilation.
Probably.
That's a great. I want that like as a quote. I'm gonna snip that audio out.
So my whole plan was basically to Doctor Strange this and just keep rebooting until Dexter can figure out a way to win. But I don't think he has time with either opponent. Like
that Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow?
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah. Edge of Tomorrow or the end of Doctor Strange, spoiler alert, or there's probably other examples. I guess Groundhog Day technically kind of applies.
Not trying to kill anyone in that, but sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really sucks too, Ben, because you the short straw, you got your two natural predators because the one thing that Dexter's best at is building robots, and the one thing that that Samurai Jack and the Powerpuff Girls destroy every day of their lives is giant robots.
Exactly. So I think Dexter is just right out at this point. I also think Samurai Jack is right out for one key fact that Chris has not mentioned.
Oh, are you going to bring up the innocent thing?
The innocent thing.
See, I say that you're saying that
so
basically,
sword,
go ahead.
Jack's sword cannot be used to harm an innocent thing. Well, an innocent living thing. There's apparently a time when he kills an innocent robot and is really broken up about it. So that doesn't apply. But the Powerpuff Girls and Dexter are both living things. I mean, he does not need a sword to kill Dexter, but I feel like he does need the sword for the Powerpuff Girls.
See, my defense against that is that if the Powerpuff Girls are trying to kill me, then they're not innocent.
Well, who says it? No one's trying to kill anybody here. I think I don't want to use that as the way we resolve this fight.
And his sword isn't his only weapon, so he.
No, that is true, and that's why I think I'm not going to use that as a thing to say Dexter can do shit against him, because that's not going to happen. Yeah. But I think that he does need all of his tools to have a chance against the Powerpuff Girls, and I think he does not have the sword.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I think when I saw, just because when I was looking at this and prepping, just when I saw light speed and pick up a mountain, that's even for superhero standards, that's way up there.
Yeah.
In terms of speed and strength and just number of powers, just eye lasers. If they're stuck in the flypaper, they have eye lasers.
But they didn't, which is what I'm saying. We know that they're strong, but they're not the smartest.
Well, except for Blossom, who specifically has advanced intellect as a power.
But she didn't think of using her laser eyes to get out of the flypaper.
She was really distracted.
Well, I mean,
by
that's
the
also
flypaper.
well, no, that's also her in the early episodes.
Well, that was season 4.
Well, see, when was Samurai Jack 75? Only season 5 or so.
Yeah, but we're saying the latest... Wait, what are you saying?
Well, I'm saying, like, the Powerpuff Girls have got they've experienced the flypaper. They have they have, however many seasons of combat experience.
Yeah, but I'm saying that her intellect in season 4 was not to use her laser eyes. That's a late season.
I don't know. I'm still just not buying. I don't see how how even deals the finishing blow. Like, if a missile does not hurt them, what does Samurai Jack do?
Well, what Mojo Jojo was going to do when they were stuck in the flypaper before the squirrel saved them was he basically just filled the room with explosives.
See, it wouldn't have even worked. They weren't even in any danger.
Well, they survived one missile, but he
They do just sit in lava,
do they?
recreationally.
Yeah, they can survive in lava as if it's water.
Yeah.
Well, so how? Because usually an episode has a moment where they're struggling. What is usually the struggle point for them?
So,
Because they don't always just win super easily.
I feel like generally it is distractions, but they do eventually overcome the distraction. They're never. It's. I think it's rarely that they're actually in physical threat. It's just more that they don't get around to doing it yet.
yeah, I'm trying to remember the episode plots, and I keep just remembering like girl drama stuff for the first half of the episode that coalesces into a fight, but the fight is just the eye candy at the end. But I mean, it's also all relative. If we're trying to establish the power level of these people based on their best feats, the Powerpuff Girls are just way out there. Samurai Jack is superhuman, but he's not that superhuman.
So
I don't know. I'm just not seeing. I'm trying to find a way for you to win, Chris.
I mean, I don't really know what my final blow would be, but how do you think we would do if me and Ben teamed up against you?
If you guys team up and Dexter uses his big energy thing to make something capable of hurting them,
Yeah. It's possible.
I think it's possible because before we started recording, you were going to say that you were going to have 100% on this.
which is the only reason you're fighting me so hard. If I hadn't said that, you would have been like, "Oh yeah, they win."
Well, I don't think you can have 100%. I think there's still a chance that we win.
I'll give you 1%. I'll give you 0.5%.
What if Dexter gives his super fast thing to Samurai Jack?
That
Gives all of his technology to Samurai Jack.
Then he's what, if you take 60 times 60, and he's 3,600 times faster. I'm still light speed. That's still another 5 orders of magnitude on top of that.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Well, hold on. They can move that fast, but I don't know that they can process that fast.
What do you mean? Oh, the reaction time?
Right, they can fly that fast, but I don't know if I would say that they can necessarily with the 60 times faster thing of Dexter and Samurai Jack, they are processing information that fast. And if the helmet were to go on Samurai Jack, he would be processing information that fast. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think there is a very small sliver. I was actually going to say 100% to the Powerpuff Girls. I think there is a very small sliver where Samurai Jack could win.
It involves the Powerpuff Girls not paying attention and not using any area of effect attacks, and then also your one attack being strong enough to hurt their invincible little bodies.
But a small sliver.
So I remember that on the weakness list, Chemical X was on there too, right?
No, Antidote X.
Antidote X. What is that? Oh, that's.
I assume a specific researcher, figured it out.
Yeah,
So that exists. So that's basically their kryptonite.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have the kryptonite in whatever episode that is, but I'm not going to give you. I don't think Dexter could invent it without spending a couple seasons fighting the Powerpuff Girls beforehand.
Given infinite time, which he technically has.
No. How's he going to get a sample?
No, but what it comes down to is that I think it really is that the situation where the Powerpuff Girls don't win is that Samurai Jack keeps them occupied for long enough for Dexter to make Antidote X or something else to defeat them, And then Samurai Jack winds up winning because Dexter is a small child.
One more point that we haven't addressed really here either is there's 3 of them. The plan has to get all of them at the same time.
Right, exactly. This is an incredibly narrow situation.
So, I mean, the percentage, I think, is somewhere between 99% and 100%.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
I'm happy with taking 1% from you.
There you go.
I'm not even gonna, I think it's like point.
No, don't go lower than 1%.
No, you're not getting 1%. You're getting like 0.33%.
Well,
if it was one
this is a
Powerpuff
vote.
Girl, you get 1%.
I vote 1%.
Ooh.
No, I vote 100%. Or 0%, whatever one is the one that you don't get in anything.
All right, we will say 0.5% to Samurai Jack, 99.5% to the Powerpuff Girls, and Dexter is still just a small child.
No. It's not 0.5% to Samurai Jack. It's 0.5% to the Samurai Jack Dexter team. So you both get 0.25%.
Oh, no. Samurai Jack still wins in the end in this situation. 100%.
Oh, because he just then turns and hits Dexter.
Right, exactly. He doesn't even need the sword.
just
Dexter
poke
is a
him.
small child, once again.
Oh, and also, Samurai Jack is 60 times faster also.
Right. Exactly. So, in this situation, it's pretty much just Dexter saying "fuck you" and sacrificing himself so the Powerpuff Girls don't win.
All right, well, that was a good 10 minutes of arguing over 1 percentage point. With that, we can dive into our middle of the podcast break. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the middle of the thing that you are listening to. I'm still your host, Marcus, and I have an announcement for you, which is, if you did not like how we decided this, and you think that somebody else should have won this super fight, besides the 3 Powerpuff Girls, the obvious 100% choice,
Samurai Jack.
then...
Don't vote for Dexter. I know you weren't actually listening.
That go to our Facebook page where we're gonna run a poll after all these fight episodes, so you can tell us your opinion about who you think should have won the fight. And you can find us just at Absurd Hypotheticals. Just search us on Facebook. And if you are feeling bold and want to yell at us directly in chat, you can go to Absurd Hypotheticals. That's P-A-L-S Pals. Also on Facebook, and you can hop on the chat there and let us know what you think. And with that, you can listen to our second question. Welcome back, everybody. We are diving into more of 1995 cartoons with our second question, which is, what if Pokemon were real?
I really hope our listeners are familiar with 90s culture, otherwise this episode is going to make like no sense to them.
I think Samurai Jack was actually 2000s. It wasn't in the 90s.
Oh, it might be, actually. Anyway.
But yeah.
Yeah, so Pokemon are, if you don't know, I'm not going to bother explaining because you're not going to get anything
Explain
about
the premise of Pokemon.
Pokemon, originally created in Japan, is a game about pocket monsters, wild animals with special abilities that you can catch in little balls and carry around with you and train them as friends and fighting allies.
I didn't think you'd actually explain the premise of Pokemon.
He did.
I didn't think I was going to do it either, specifically because I said I wasn't going to, but you convinced me. So the way we decided to implement it, if Pokemon were real, is that, one, all the other animals no longer exist. This is twofold, because, one, if they did, I think the first part of our answers is that they kill all the regular animals because they have superpowers.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for a lizard to compete with, like, a fire lizard, like,
Yep.
in the wild. So it's all just Pokemon. As far as what they can do and how strong they are, we decided, basically, for every year old that the Pokemon is, it's like one in-game level. So like a 3-year-old Pidgey will be like a level 3 Pidgey. And then for their lifespan, they live about 50 years. Some will level faster, some will level slower. And when they hit their evolution level that they have in the game, they'll evolve into their next form, which is usually just a bigger, badder version of themselves. So the first thing I looked at is, if we are replacing all our animals with Pokemon, do we have a functioning ecosystem? Because I imagine there might be some kind of gaps, given that we only have, 800-something animals, but it's less than we have now. So I specifically went and tried to find out who would get fucked the most in the Pokemon world. And so the first thing I was looking at is basically, if all the Pokemon are about the same size in general, the people that are going to get screwed are like the smallest carnivore, because their prey is going to be too big for them to eat.
Yeah, because I guess like all the bug Pokemon are still pretty big.
Yeah, so the smallest carnivore in the Pokemon world, as far as I can tell, is Pidgey. Pidgey, also known as the tiny bird Pokemon, is only 12 inches tall, which is very small bird.
I always imagined it bigger.
Yeah, me too. I feel like a lot of the Pokemon... Actually, my favorite one of that is Machamp, who is like this like super burly like wrestler dude. Is only like 5'8" or something.
Wait, really?
Yep, it's hilarious.
I'm taller than
Awesome.
Yep.
It's like Tom Cruise. You always think Tom Cruise is taller, and then he isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, the natural play of the Pidgey, if you remember the games at all, would likely be the Caterpie and the Weedle, which are these 2 worm-type Pokemon. But they're actually about the same size as Pidgey. So both the Caterpie and the Weedle are 12 inches tall. So I was like, oh, hell yeah, this Pidgey can't eat anything. The dominoes are already starting to fall. But in the newer generations, they added this Pokemon called Cutie Fly, which is a 4-inch tall bee fly thing that Pidgey could definitely totally eat. And then I was looking, one step up over the Pidgey level in the ecosystem, there's enough variation that everybody has something to eat. So I was like, damn it. And I'm like, well, how about the ocean habitats? Because another thing I remember from the show is that the main fish that's everywhere, the Magikarp, is pretty big. The Magikarp is actually 3 feet tall. They measure him tall because he's like pretty short. Like
What is
lengthwise,
wrong
I guess.
with this world?
So the fish that's everywhere is 3 feet tall. And I was like, oh, awesome. None of these predators are going to be able to eat this big old fish, even though it's defenseless. But again, the newer generations, when they added all their new tiny fish and Magikarp clones, they're small. Like, they put them back down to regular fish size. And even the tiny shark Pokemon, Sharpedo? Sharpedo. I'm trying to put a K in there for shark, but it doesn't have one. Is big enough to eat all the small fishes. So I was like, damn it. Both the land and the oceans are, functioning right
Why
now.
is everything working out so well?
And then I realized I need to focus on the less obvious bits of the ecosystem. For example, decomposers. So it doesn't matter how good your food chain is if there's nothing to break down the dead organic matter at the end of it and get the whole cycle going back around again. Typical decomposers include worms, mushrooms, slugs, and snails. Which there's a bunch of them. And I didn't see the slugs and snails at first, so I got excited because the only mushroom Pokemon is Fungus, who evolves into Amoongus. Like there's the fungus among us.
Of course.
Isn't Paris also a mushroom Pokemon, or am I wrong about that?
So Paris is a crab bug Pokemon, and the actual he's infected by a mushroom. So it's a parasitic mushroom that controls it from the inside.
What the fuck is wrong with Pokemon?
So that's what Paris is. So what I liked about Fungus is that it's a grass poison type, which sprays poison when disturbed. So if their only decomposer was this Fungus, they would be everywhere. And everywhere you went, you would walk into these mushrooms that would spray you with poison gas. But while there are no worm Pokemon to fill the role, there's actually a fair selection of slugs that would theoretically also get the job done. So it might not be great. There might be some poison around, but there are decomposers to fill that role in the ecosystem. And try as I might, I couldn't find another hole that would ruin it after that. But that doesn't mean everything is all, peachy in the Pokemon world. One main thing that's going to be hurt in the environment is Pokemon that have weather abilities. Each Pokemon in the game has a latent ability that will just, they know from birth that'll have an effect in battle. But there's a subset of these where they'll actually change the weather. So theoretically, if you have an area where this Pokemon has this weather changing ability and that Pokemon is there, the weather will always be the same. So I'm going to start with the least problematic one, which is the ability Drought, where it's always sunny.
In Philadelphia.
And now, so this will be problematic, obviously, because if it's always sunny in an area, then, you're not going to have any rain and things are going to die. Not super great. Luckily, the only Pokemon that commonly has this ability is Torkoal, which is basically a fire turtle who eats coal. And where they live is on the mountains and in coal mines where there is coal for them to eat and keep going. So You can't really live on a mountain because it's not going to rain on the mountains, but you don't have to go to the mountains. You can live elsewhere. So that one's okay. The next ability is the opposite, which is drizzle, which makes it rain. So this one's going to be a little bit more common. And the one Pokemon that learns this one commonly is the Pelipper, which is basically a giant seagull. So there's not going to be too many Pelipers because only the evolved form knows it, and he evolves at level 25. So only some of the older birds are going to know this drizzle ability. And what's nice about Pelipper is that it actually travels a lot. It's used to like carry mail and shit in the Pokemon world generally. So getting your mail will suck because it's going to always be rained on. But I think what I love the most about Pelipper in the context of Pokemon. So if you have a Pelipper infestation, you don't want any more Pelipers. In the Pokemon games, while it is raining, the move Thunder never misses. And Pelipper's typing, which is water and flying, both of those types are weak to electrical attacks. So he basically just sets himself up for destruction, where he makes the most powerful and effective move against him never, ever, ever miss. So the Pokemon that learns Thunder at the earliest is Mareep, which is just an electric sheep. And so if you just haven't heard of those, your Pelipper problems are going to... I can't think of an electricity pun. They're going to get zapped. So it's going to rain when you get your mail, but they're going to fly away and you can take care of them. There's 2 more weather abilities that are going to make those particular environments uninhabitable. Number 1 is the snow warning ability, which is doubly misleading because it is not warning about the weather because it creates the weather, and it's not snow, it's hail.
Is that like a translation thing?
I don't know.
I feel like it's a translation thing.
But the Pokemon that knows this is Snover, which is one of the most common Pokemon in the icy regions. It's basically it's a snow-covered tree, basically, an animate snow-covered tree. So basically every forest in the cold climate, it's just going to be hailing all the time. Not even snowing, hailing all the time, which is just going to be absolutely unpleasant. So I was like thinking of, maybe just like deforest those areas to try to get it back to normal. But who's going to go out there and like cut down trees and hail? That's just going to be a shit job. And then the last one is going to be the ability Sandstream, which is, I think, the worst of these weathers, which is it makes a sandstorm, which is the Pokemon Hippopotas, which is a little brown hippo with very big nostrils. They live, luckily, in the desert, and that basically means that deserts are just sandstorms all the fucking time, and you can't go there anymore.
I mean, I don't go to the desert anyway, so I'm good.
Yeah, so generally, again, it kind of works out. Like, you can deal with it. Like, the mountains, the cold places, and the desert are off limits, and it rains when you get your package. That's not so bad. There's going to be some... Pokemon also just learn regular moves while leveling up, and some of these can be kind of problematic. Going back to the Pidgey, you got a problem too, because Pidgey's very young learn some very annoying attacks. At level 5, they learn Gust, which basically is like a mini tornado. And even earlier at level 3, they learn Sand Attack, which, according to the Fire Red Leaf Green games, is described as a lot of sand is hurled in the foe's face, reducing its accuracy. Basically, all the pigeons now, all over the street, if you piss them off or startle them or anything, are just going to hit you in the face with a lot of sand, which is not really the world I want to live in. Another common occurrence, very common Pokemon is the Pokemon Geodude, which is basically a rock with 2 arms. But they live basically everywhere and kind of just lie on the ground pretending to be rocks.
Can they fly or not? I always imagine they could fly, but that doesn't make sense to me now.
I feel like they hover, yeah.
Yeah, they can float.
They don't have legs.
They don't.
They also bang into each other in contests of hardness, according to their Pokédex entries.
Oh, no.
Actually, I have 2 written here from Geodude, because I love the 2-word line description in the game, and I'm not sure if it's just lost in translation or if the person translating just knows no one's going to check their work and they just make it up. This one's good because it gave me an idea of how many Geodudes there were. So I quote, "There are plenty of them to be found along any road. A scholar with too much free time once counted 100 of them along a single route." And that's all the information that this game thought was necessary to give you about this Geodude.
Very interesting.
But that doesn't really tell you what Geodude is, because the next quote is my favorite, where it says, "The longer a Geodude lives, the more its edges are chipped and worn away, making it rounded in appearance. However, This Pokemon's heart will remain hard, craggy, and rough always. Like, what is this? Oh, but the reason I brought up Geodude in the first place, so at level 12, which I imagine is pretty young for a rock, it learns the move Magnitude, which basically can cause an earthquake with anywhere between level 4 and 10 in magnitude. So if you are walking down a road with, say, 100 Geodudes who get grumpy if you disturb them or trip over them because they look like rocks, they could respond by creating an earthquake of a random magnitude.
Damn that guy that's 100 Geodudes in one trail together.
I kicked all of them. So I mean, those are the two common ones that I think are going to be the biggest problems. One more fun one that I just like the mental image of. There's a ghost Pokemon, Dusclops, who learns the move Gravity, which just lets him make shit heavy in an area. So I like the idea of a ghost just wandering around making things heavy, just like at random.
I never really understood ghost Pokemon. Are they like dead things come back to life?
I'm glad you asked, because that was my last thing I tried to find to see if it didn't work. See,
I did that on purpose. I totally knew that.
Ghastly from the first generation, I remembered being the ghosts of deceased Pokemon. And I was like, hold on a fucking second. If every time a Pokemon dies, they make a Ghastly, there's going to be a fuck ton of Ghastlys around. So they never commit in the game descriptions or in the game to say that Ghastlys are just ghost Pokemon. So Generation 1 describes it as an almost invisible, this gaseous Pokemon cloaks the target and puts it to sleep without notice. So it just calls it a gaseous Pokemon. So it does not commit to it being a ghost. But then, just for fun, the descriptions get wilder as they get bored of writing descriptions for Ghastly, I guess. Fire Red gets oddly specific, where it says, a being that exists as a thin gas. It can topple an Indian elephant by enveloping the prey in 2 seconds.
Huh.
Which I don't know if it means it can envelop it in 2 seconds or if it can topple it in 2 seconds. And also, I'm pretty sure they didn't have Indian elephants in Pokemon. But it gets even more buck wild in the latest description of Ghastly from Ultra Moon game. Poisonous gas compromises 95% of its body. It is said that the remaining 5% is made up of the souls of those who died from the gas.
Well, that's morbid.
But it also doesn't make any sense. Like, is a Ghastly only 95% complete until it poisons a bunch of people and sucks up their souls?
Maybe it becomes more and more soul as time goes on? I don't know. Well, no, because it... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, and I don't really have
You didn't come up with an answer?
A cohesive point, because everything I thought was going to break didn't exactly. So I kind of just had fun looking at different things that the Pokemon could do and which parts of the ecosystem would work.
So it'd work.
Yeah, it would be. It is a legit world. They have had to go to literally all parts of the animal kingdom to suck up ideas for new Pokemon. And so there we are. They have a complete ecosystem.
Sweet.
Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, so you looked at, or part of your answer was looking at what Pokemon eat other Pokemon. I want to look at what we eat as people, because we don't have animals anymore and we eat meat. The first question was, in the show and in the games, I guess, do they actually eat Pokemon? I wasn't, like, watching the show when I was a kid, I was never actually, like, clear about this. But apparently there are some instances where they show, or they don't show it, but they, like, mention it. People eating Pokemon.
Ooh, like just like casually, or like they're evil?
I feel like it was like Miltank, right? Specifically, it definitely comes up, right?
Well, Miltank comes up, but Miltank specifically because they make milk.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they ever mentioned that they eat Miltanks, but in episode 49 of the anime, there's a Pokedex for Farfetch'd. It says, Farfetch'd makes a delicious meal, especially when cooked with leek. Because of this, Farfetch'd are nearly extinct.
Oh, shit!
That's just sad.
Yeah, so Farfetch'd are apparently widely known to be hunted just because they taste good.
You know what's fucked up, too? Especially cooked with leek, they carry a leek around as a weapon.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Like their jam.
Yep.
It's like that's the defining features. They're a duck holding a leek. They have nothing else.
They evolved to be delicious.
It's their own fault.
They season themselves.
And then in the game, in XY, Pokemon X and Pokemon Y, the restaurant Lehner, that's the name of the restaurant, Restaurant Lehner, they serve Slowpoke Tail. And Slowpoke Tail is often described as very tasty. I think...
Real descript there, fucking Pokemon writers.
I think there are like multiple episodes where Team Rocket was trying to like harvest Slowpoke Tails.
Yeah, that comes up in one of the games. I think it's in Gold and Silver. That's like a
yeah. There's a whole subplot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I actually found there's an article on Modern Farmer that like analyzes the logic behind Pokemon and eating Pokemon in the games and shows, and they likened this restaurant to basically like the black market kind of sort of thing, and they said that eating Slowpoke Tails is like an ethical questionable luxury. So this is kind of similar to like eating shark fin, where like a lot of people, they cut off the fin of sharks and then they throw them back into the ocean because like the most valuable part of the shark is the fin.
Yeah. It's like rhinos and...
Yeah, they also compared it to rhinos because they mentioned that the Slowpoke tails grow back. So they poach the tails and then they grow back and they poach them again. So next they looked at the factors that go into like if we decide to eat them or not. And there are 3 main factors. The first one was like the intelligence of the Pokemon. So if they're dumb, they're okay to eat, apparently. I guess we kind of do the same thing here too. Like,
yeah, we do.
We say that.
Wait, is this you deciding or them deciding?
That's the article.
Okay.
And they use Slowpoke as an example. They say that Slowpoke is simple-minded, so the people in Pokemon have decided that Slowpokes are okay to eat. The second factor is appearance and whether or not they're cute or not. So, like, Pikachu is super cute. You're not going to eat a Pikachu. That's, like, sort of akin to, like, a dog, like a pet or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But then there are other Pokemon that have more realistic features to them, like the Tauros and the Krabby. They just look like they're base animals. So they said that, like, people would be more okay to eating those types of Pokemon.
But really, the ugliest motherfucker is Slowpoke.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty ugly. This actually wasn't part of the article, but I said that the third factor was how weak they are, because if they're strong and they're hard to kill, then obviously it's going to be harder for us to hunt them.
Yeah, and luckily, like, the weakest motherfucker is Slowpoke.
Yeah. I mean, Slowpoke is super slow. I think Slowpoke actually, it takes him like 5 seconds to register pain too. So if you kill him before that, you're good. And then based on like how we determined how leveling works, their strength is directly correlated to their age. So we'd basically just be eating like newborns and like young Pokemon, which is ethically
Veal
questionable.
is back on the menu.
Yeah, that's like the equivalent of eating veal. But like everything that we would probably be veal equivalent of Pokemon. And you definitely want to eat them before they evolve, because if they evolve, then they get super strong.
Right.
I imagine like an entire like factory of like, I don't know, give me a Pokemon that you can eat that evolves. That's not Slowpoke.
Damn it. Execute.
Execute.
Oh, Execute's great. Yeah, so you got a farmer with all the Executes, and he's like, all right, get ready to harvest my Executes for today. Thank God I have a weekend coming up. And he's like, it's already Saturday. He's like, oh God. And you just hear the crashing of Executors like breaking through the walls of the Execute pens.
Yeah.
For those who don't know these Pokemon, Execute is basically just a swarm of eggs that are psychically connected, and Executor is a large pine tree with legs. I don't know how they're related.
Doesn't make sense.
Unless you're in Hawaii, where you get a lowland Executor, which is like regular Executor, except instead of being like 4 feet tall, he's 30 feet tall.
Yeah, that's true.
So next I wanted to look at like what meat we eat in like our world and how that would compare to their world. So the most popular types of meat that we eat are chicken, pig, cow, and fish. So what are the Pokemon equivalent of these? The chicken, the closest that Pokemon have is the Torchic, which is a fire Pokemon. And it specifically shoots fireballs at you if you try to kill it. So, not a great substitute for chicken. Chicken in our world are generally pretty easy to contain.
I guess we could use Pidgey since they're like roughly chicken size apparently. So
I guess so, but I feel like that's more akin to eating pigeons, which we don't do.
well, technically we do eat doves, and doves and pigeons are actually the same bird.
Do we eat doves? I don't
We
eat
do
doves.
eat doves. I don't eat doves, but people do it.
Ah.
It's a thing. I'm pretty sure it's a thing.
Next, the pig. So the Pokemon equivalent of a pig is a Tepig, which is also a fire Pokemon, and it breathes fire, so that's not an option.
They're all pre-cooked.
Well, I guess you could force it to cook itself. It's kind of cruel. And then the next one is beef, or cows, which we already mentioned, the Miltank. And the Miltank is actually a decent option for eating because they're a normal type Pokemon, which means that they don't have like fire or water or anything. And they're pretty bad at fighting. I actually I Googled Miltank weakness, and the result, like there's a little category that said weakness, fighting. Which
I just love it out of context. Where
Yeah.
It's like he's just bad at fighting in general. His weakness is fighting other things.
Which, thinking about it more, it's supposed to mean that he's weak to fighting type Pokemon, but it's still funny. And Miltanks are also useful because they make milk, obviously. So, I think Miltank will probably be the most useful Pokemon to eat because you get meat and milk, and they're like pretty complacent. But then moving on to the next one, fish. The closest one for fish I found was Magikarp, obviously. And the problem we mentioned with that before was the evolution. So Magikarp evolves into Gyarados.
Which is, for those of you who don't know, a giant fucking sea serpent.
Yeah.
It's the joke is that the weakest looking fish turns into the most badass looking dragon serpent.
So, yeah, you can eat Magikarp, but you just have to make sure to eat it before level 20, because that's when it evolves into Gyarados.
Yeah. You can eat Magikarp, but Gyarados can eat you.
Yeah. And then I just put together like a small list of other Pokemon that kind of fit the criteria of eatable Pokemon. So Slowpoke and Farfetch'd, obviously, because people already eat them in the games and show. Miltanks was a good contender. Magikarp, Psyduck, and Krabby.
Oh yeah, Krabby's good.
So basically just any Pokemon that has like those clueless vacant eyes, like the beady eyes. Any Pokemon that looks clueless.
Also, I love the 1 day too late problem for Miltank is kind of hilarious. Because at level 11 it gets milk drinks, so it starts making milk at level 11. At level 15 it learns the move Bide, which basically means it does nothing, but if it takes damage after it uses that move, it'll deal back double afterwards, like later. So you have to be careful, I guess, when you go and slaughter it, maybe?
Yeah.
And
Or
then,
else you'll get double dead.
yeah, you get double dead. And then most hilariously, if you wait too long and it gets to level 19, it learns the move Rollout, which basically, it just starts fucking rolling around and growing in power and speed. Which is just an image of like 30 of those learning Rollout on the same day and escaping the farm is amazing.
Yeah. So be careful of that.
And definitely be careful. Level 24, they learn Body Slam. You don't want that.
Yeah, that's basically all I had. So if you want to eat Pokemon, stick to the list. Ben, what did you do?
So I kind of looked at how Pokemon would benefit society from a like utilities perspective. So like the kind of things that are like public services, because a lot of them are actually surprisingly helpful in some of these areas. So first off, trash collection, actually, or I guess more correctly, trash like management, because it's not really the collection part. So basically, there are a couple of Pokemon. So there's Muck, and then its evolved form Grimer, which are basically just like living sludge piles. They're actually weirdly cute considering that description.
They're kind of just blobs of goo, right?
But they have like they have kind of like grins and cute eyes. I don't know. It's more cute than just like literally a pile of sludge with arms and a mouth should be, which is cute at all. But they literally just eat garbage. They just straight up eat garbage. That's what they do.
Probably also leave a lot of garbage around when they move, right?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
They literally eat garbage. I know. So Marcus, you mentioned Alola, which is the saying of Pokemon Sun and Moon.
I just clicked Grimer and I'm looking at the picture of the Alolan Grimer.
Oh, the Alolan Grimer is great. Yeah. So basically, Alola is an island that's very much based on like Hawaii, and certain Pokemon have Alolan versions that evolved differently because of being there. And in Alola, they actually imported Mucks and Grimers to eat their trash because they are an island, and needed a way to deal with their trash. So the problem with this plan with Muck and Grimer eating trash is that they do just trail poisonous sludge behind them and smell very, very bad. Except for the Alolan versions, which actually the toxins that the like Mucks and Grimers leach out, they just kind of crystallize in the Alolan version, and they just get really shiny and colorful, and they're all like rainbowy and pretty nice looking actually.
Yeah, this one's got like his like lower lip that looks like a beard shape because his mouth is open is like all yellow and fancy, and the rest of it is green.
And then also because the toxins crystallize, they don't smell. So I figure for our instead of having landfills, we just have like a bunch of Mucks and Grimers, and we just give them all our trash, and they eat it.
Do they excrete?
It's these crystals, which will fall off and are toxic, but we can sweep those up and, I don't know, bury them like we do nuclear waste. I don't know, something but it's an easier problem than...
We'll need a stronger Grimer.
Exactly.
We need a Grimer that can crystallize crystallization, and then we'll be in good shape.
But at the very least, this solves our landfill problem. So that's cool. That's a good thing. And next up, I had water treatment. So this was actually surprisingly hard to research for a maybe unexpected reason, which is that people are weirdly interested in knowing if you can drink the water from water-type Pokemon.
I never really thought about it, but now that you've brought it up, I want to know.
Right. It's unclear, I guess. I guess there's a couple that specifically say they have very pure water that they produce, but the rest of them don't say that. And so I don't know if it's like saliva or just I don't know. I don't know.
They're just spitting on you?
Right. It's unclear, and I had never thought about it, and now it makes me kind of uncomfortable, honestly. But regardless, it made searching for are there Pokemon that clean water pretty hard. But there is definitely at least one. I'm going to say there's 1.5, and we'll get to the half.
Jesus.
The one is Suicune, which is basically, it's one of the legendary Pokemon in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Wait, no. Gold and Silver. Which is basically like this big, watery dog thing with, beautiful purple hair. I don't know. But
tell me more about the beautiful purple hair, Ben.
It's beautiful and purple and hair.
You didn't tell him more.
Yeah, I just told him the same things over a longer period of time. I'm sorry, I don't have more information, Marcus.
My boner is gone, Ben.
That's a relief? I'm going to say that's a relief. But Suicune has the power to walk across water and purify dirty water with one touch. So Suicune could totally do water purification. The one problem, of course, being that Suicune is a legendary Pokemon, which means that there is exactly one of it. So this isn't exactly a large-scale solution. It does move really fast. You have to chase it down in the game, and it's really fucking annoying. I'm going to go ahead and say that now.
Sounds like a very personal problem to you.
Yeah, it made me very angry as a child. I wanted all the cool dogs. I don't know. Anyway. But so conceivably, maybe even a state could use Suicune for its water filtration. But it's not a global solution. But
you think it could sustain a whole state?
It moved really fast, dude. It moved across I guess it was a region. I don't know how big the regions are in Pokemon, but they're reasonably big, and it would run across it very rapidly.
In a day.
Yeah. So it conceivably could, I think it could be a water filter, maybe a smaller state, but yeah,
Like the East Coast.
probably not quite. Maybe like New England. There's one other possibility, which is, oh god, I had not looked up how to pronounce this one. Oh no.
Give it to me.
Pyukumuku.
What the fuck?
Pyukumuku.
Pyukumuku.
Pyukumuku is apparently from Generation 7, so after I have stopped playing the Pokemon games. It's a sea cucumber Pokemon.
Spell it for me. I want to try and pronounce it.
Found it.
Pyukumuku.
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 Its mouth looks like an anus.
This is true. Pyukumuku. The sea cucumber Pokemon. The reason I bring this one up is that it is the only Pokemon that can learn a move called Purify, which is a poison-type move that removes status effects from other Pokemon. So, I don't know if you could use this to purify water, but it's called Purify, and it removes, like, poison and stuff from Pokemon. So maybe, I don't know. It's possible. So,
This is the only Pokemon that has that move?
Yes. It's the only one that learns it. So,
Ben, the problem is this thing is very, very slow. Like, very slow. Let me
That
put it
is
this
true.
way. So I'm looking at its space stats right now. And if you have like an average stat, or like an average to good stat, at level 100, you're looking at like the stat's going to be like 300 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Its speed at level 100 is 13.
that's not great. I mean,
It's like
admittedly,
barely a 2-digit number.
I like to point out once again, it's a sea cucumber, so that checks. Regardless,
Oh, it learns Baton Pass. The first move it learns is Baton Pass, so it could run a relay race.
You could toss some of these in your water supply, and maybe it can purify it. I don't know. Anyway, the last thing I want to look at, and the reason I started going down this road, but I couldn't find information for it to be a full answer, was electricity. So obviously, there are electric-type Pokemon. And I feel like you can probably just have them directly make electricity, because that's literally what they do. But I could not get any good numbers from this, aside from some throwaway reference to the fact that Pikachu can generate 100,000 volts, which means literally fucking nothing as an electrical engineer.
Yeah, you need amps. Don't you need amps?
Yeah, but so one quick aside about Pikachu and just all electric Pokemon in general. So when they use something like Thunderbolt, where they strike something with lightning, they can direct where it goes. Now, when electricity moves between two things, it's because one of them is at a higher voltage than the other, and then there is a path of least resistance going to it. So the voltage thing, yes, fine. They can generate voltage and charge themselves. But if they're going to aim it, that means that they can reduce, or they can basically make the path of least resistance through the air be wherever they want. So they can, like, ionize the air and reduce its resistance so the electricity goes that way, which is fucking insane.
That's exactly how lightning does it. Lightning induces the ground to be positive and the air to be...
But here's the thing, Marcus. Lightning doesn't choose where it goes.
Well, it kind of does a little bit, sort of.
Not like this.
Well, you can ionize in a cone-ish thing, and then and the cool thing is the air then turns to plasma. That's
right.
the cool
No,
part.
yes, and I realize all of this, but they pick where it goes, which means they can control the ionization of the air, which is insane. But I digress. I'm not going to talk about doing it with electric Pokemon because that's A, too easy, and B, I don't have any actual good numbers for. So instead we're going to talk
but
about...
Can they put an Indian elephant to sleep in 2 seconds, Ben?
They can kill it.
That's not the same.
Tesla proved that. No, Edison proved that. I went the wrong direction.
Oh, you went sad.
Anyway, we're going to talk about wind power. So Marcus mentioned that Pidgey learns an attack called Gust, which is basically an attack that really a lot of flying Pokemon get, where they just flap their wings real hard, and it makes a gust of wind that causes damage. So the question is, first, how fast does wind have to be to cause damage? I found a chart of wind speeds with effects, and at 47 to 54 miles per hour, there will be light structural damage to buildings. So I don't know exactly how fast we're talking about here, but I think that's a reasonable place to be. So we're going to say around 50 miles an hour.
Okay, that's a good benchmark.
So now, the next question is, first, how do wind turbines work? Obviously, they they generate power when the wind is blowing. They only start once it's going at a certain speed, usually somewhere under 10 miles an hour, like, 8-ish or so. And then they'll actually stop generating power and go into a lock if the wind gets too strong to avoid the system getting damaged. And conveniently, that too strong is around 55 miles an hour generally. And obviously the power generation scales, it goes up as the wind speed gets higher. So, wind turbines generate power, the amount of power they can generate, you refer to it as their capacity, which is basically the amount they would generate if they could go at full efficiency 24 hours a day. The average capacity of a wind turbine varies, but a number I saw a couple places was 2.5 megawatts, which is a decent amount of power. But most onshore, so like not out at sea, wind turbines are only generating about 24% of their capacity. So it winds up being much less than that. But if we have all these flying Pokemon that can just flap their wings and make winds fast enough to keep them going at pretty close to full capacity, we can generate much more power with wind power. So I'm gonna say that you can go at 80% of capacity here, given time for like maintenance and birds getting tired and just like if the winds actually get too strong for them to work, things like that. So let's say 80%. So we're getting 2 megawatts per turbine. So the largest coal-fired power plant in the world is the Taichung power plant in Taiwan, which generates 5,500 megawatts. We could replace it now with 2,750 turbines, which is a lot, but it's doable. The largest wind farm in the U.S. is the Alta Wind Energy Center in Kern County, California, which has 600 turbines. So you figure, a little over 4 large wind farms, and you can replace this giant power plant. And that power plant emits 40 million tons of carbon dioxide each year, which is approximately as much as the country of Switzerland. So we could probably replace a lot of our current power generation with Pokemon, just using wind power, and have a great impact on our environmental health by eliminating a lot of, coal-fired and whatnot power plants.
Have a great impact to our environmental health by enslaving our animals.
We would pay them.
We would pay them? Okay.
With
grains. Actually, here's the interesting thing. So theoretically, in order to get that much wind going, a Pidgey needs to generate that much power and spend that much energy itself, which means it's got to eat a lot of grains for a 12-inch little birdie boy.
This is true.
Because I can't imagine it's an efficient conversion rate to put food in an animal, which then flaps its wings into the wind to create a breeze that is caught a little bit by a giant wind tower.
Don't worry about it. It all
Luckily,
works.
Pokemon are magic.
To be fair, I feel like there is some magic in that old top hat involved in most of the Pokemon moves, so we're going to do some hand-wavy stuff. Literally all of the hand-wavy stuff. Because that's what they do. So, fuck it. We can do it too. So that was my answer.
Awesome. And that should do it for today then. So, if you enjoyed these questions or want to hear more hypothetical questions, join us next week where we answer the following questions. What if country borders were uncrossable?